Good morning. Welcome back to the Junius Maltby channel, most boring channel on YouTube. Just one headline here today, and then we'll take a look at metals prices. And then the main event, the gall convinced there was no gold left in the U.S. Interesting piece with some information that we've covered in the past, so we'll get some rehash of that. But overall, interesting topic to discuss and read through. So profits in the first quarter are now expected to decline as company outlooks fall short. Consensus earnings growth expectations for the first quarter of 2019 have turned negative, which would mark the first decline since 2016. Bouncing over to CNBC, we'll take a quick peek at their metal prices. We've got silver down, about 4.6 cents, 15.84. Gold down $1.50 at 17.80, so still above that 1300 mark. Palladium, just incredible lately. I mean, just very impressive to me. Up $5.60 to 13.36. Palladium, the strongest in Federal Reserve notes as far as per ounce of all the metals right now. Stronger than platinum, stronger than gold. And it used to be, man, I just can't. It shocks me every time. I remember when it was like $100. And then a quick peek over at 24H gold, and these screenshots were just minutes apart, so I don't understand. They reflect a little bit different activity. We've got gold up 225 at 13.14, and then you've got silver up about a nickel at 15.87. So yeah, prices are moving around today. We'll see. I'll look later to see which one turned out to be correct, but there you go. That's the metals prices for this morning. Currently, of course, by the end of the video, things will have changed. Now to the main event, an article by Egon van Greyerts from Matterhorn Asset Management. He's over in Switzerland, good gold guy. Title of the article, De Gaulle convinced no U.S. gold left. We've discussed this premise often in the short and boring history here of the Junius Maltby channel. And this article is going to shed a little bit more light on some of the topics and issues that are discussed. I'm not going to read the entirety of it. If you wish to, you can go find it. It's out there. It's online. But some of you would rather lay in bed and go to sleep to the drone of my boring voice reading something like this. So here we go. Let's get into it. I'm going to skip around. I'm going to actually read the quote at the end before we get into the beginning of the article. De Gaulle was certain there is no U.S. gold left. Sources who were close to de Gaulle have informed me that he, de Gaulle, was certain already in the late 1960s that the U.S. had no gold left. Obviously, I have no proof, but neither do I have any proof that the gold actually exists. More about this subject in a later article. The lack of audits and the massive trading of paper gold does point to the fact that there is something more sinister going on in the gold market. This is all likely to be revealed when the real pressure on the dollar starts and gold rises fast. At that time, paper holders of gold will ask for delivery, and China and Russia will call the U.S. bluff. The world is unprepared for what is to come. Since this level of manipulation has never ever occurred in history, no one can predict the magnitude of the collapse that will take place. Even worse, 99.99% of the world's population is totally unprepared for what is going to come. And even the minuscule minority who are predicting a cataclysmic event will not evade the suffering that would follow. No one knows where or how it will begin. It can start with a slow decline in the economy and markets, or there could be a sudden and sharp drop, taking everyone by surprise. What is certain is that the consequences will be devastating for the majority of people. Many will lose their jobs, Social Security benefits, pensions, medical care, and all the normal supports that they have been used to. Also, very few realize that the high standard of living in the West in the last many decades has nothing to do with real economic growth or productivity. Instead, it is all based on debt and printed money to the extent of at least $500 trillion, including unfunded liabilities such as medical care and pensions. There are no reserves. A rigged world economy based on debt has no foundations and no reserves. The bubble can be expanded for a limited time by just issuing more debt, and this is what we have seen since the 2006 to 2009 financial crisis. The fake life support that the world economy has received in the last 10 years in the form of additional debt of $125 trillion has inflated asset market prices to the extent that the rich are getting insanely richer and the poor are just landed with more debt. But doubling global debt in 10 years to $250 trillion has not just doubled risk. Instead, risk has grown exponentially as the quality of the debt has deteriorated catastrophically. Global government debt is at record highs and at unsustainable levels, and so is corporate debt and personal debt. The problem is that there are no reserves. To draw an analogy with people and longevity, very fat and very thin people, on average, live shorter lives than the ones with moderate overweight. Because the extra fat reserves protects you in periods of weakness or disease. The same with the world economy. When the next crisis comes, it will become evident that the world has no reserves. The only way the world can deal with the next debt crisis is by printing money and issuing more debt. But you can't solve a debt problem with more debt. Daily gold trading 850 times the daily mine production. Of all the manipulated markets, gold might be the worst of them all. Of course, we've been saying this for a long time, right? Investment gold represents less than 0.5% of world financial assets. Why then, one might ask, are daily traded gross gold volumes over 2 times the S&P 500 volumes? According to the World Gold Council, gross traded daily gold volume is US $280 billion. The daily S&P volume is $125 billion. Annual gold mine production is $120 billion, or $329 million per day. So why is daily gold trading at $280 billion? That's 850 times daily mine production of gold. This is one little key fact that I've never considered. Never saw it, never thought it. If I covered it before or mentioned it before, I forgot. And this really stands out to me as a problem, and it's a quite impressive little factoid. Who shuffles paper gold back and forth to the extent of over $250 billion US on a daily basis? It can't be the investment market, which is very small. It could be speculators, but not at that magnitude. Most likely is that the bullion banks are trading massive amounts of gold to cover up for the major shortage of physical gold, and especially central bank gold. We know that bullion banks and futures exchanges only have a fraction of physical gold to cover the outstanding paper gold commitments. And that is something we have discussed often, how you have one gold bar sitting in a room with 4 windows looking in on it. And each person peering in those windows cannot see those also looking at the gold bar, and each one of those investors believes that that gold bar belongs to them. And therein lies the problem. That is what paper gold is. You do not own it at all. It's not yours. You have nothing physical. And here's a quick peek at the average daily trading volumes in US billions. So you've got gross gold volume. Look at that. It surpasses the S&P 500, the Euro-Yen trade, the Dow. It's incredible, really. Daily gold trading is 280 billion. That's 2 times the S&P volume. This is not some conspiracy theorist website. This is a source from the World Gold Council and Gold Switzerland. These are actual numbers. This is real. This is reality we're looking at. Silk Road buys all mine production. The official central bank gold reserves are around 32,000 tons. This figure probably understates the holdings of many eastern countries like China. The gold buying of the Silk Road countries, China, India, Turkey, and Russia, is relentless. Since 2005, they have bought 33,000 tons. The buying accelerated in 2008, and since then, they have bought 29,000 tons. This means that in the last 11 years, these Silk Road countries have bought virtually the total gold production every year. Consider that, please. Think about it. Incredible. All right, so since 2008, Silk Road countries have bought 29,000 tons, virtually all mine production. And here's a chart reflecting that. You can see global production, monthly demand, and latest month. India imports, there's the Turkey imports in that violet or purplish color, Russia reserves in blue, China SGE withdrawals, and People's Bank of China reserves in red. Again, incredible amount of gold being consumed by the East. And again, that is a topic, that is something we've covered as a theme here periodically over the last several years since we started the channel anyway. And there's a lot of people, experts, I don't know anything, I just report other people's information, that have stated there's a huge wealth shift and a transfer of gold from the West to the East. And this is just another piece of that information, another little truth that points to that as being accurate. And, well, we'll see where it ends up. We'll see. Again, when the music stops, whoever has the chair wins. It's a game of musical chairs. Remember that? We talked about that once. And gold is the chair. So when this economic dance and the music, this theater, this entire charade, the smoke and mirrors of the global economy, when that music stops, whoever's got the gold, has got the chair, wins the game. Is there any U.S. gold left? Gold reserves are supposed to be just what they are called, reserves to back the currency and the stability of the country. In spite of that, many countries like the USA, UK, and Switzerland have reduced their reserves significantly. Switzerland and the UK sold most of their gold at rock-bottom prices at the end of the 1990s. Remember, 1999, Brown's down. The US had 20,000 tons at the end of the 1950s, but then sold 12,000 tons between 1958 and 1971. Looking at the chart below, the U.S. stopped selling gold after Nixon had closed the gold window in August 1971. One might ask if they have actually stopped selling or if they have just stopped reporting the sales. Until August 15th, 1971, sovereign states could demand payment of debt owed by the U.S. in gold. De Gaulle did this for France, and that is one important reason why Nixon ceased the gold backing of the dollar. And we've talked about that. There's, I believe, a couple of videos where we discuss Nixon closing the gold window and the history of U.S. gold reserves here on the channel as well. Now, take a look at this chart. If we trust the government, reported gold reserves in the United States. U.S. gold reserves down 12,000 tons in the 1960s. You can see the reserves increasing there, and then all of a sudden, boom, just dropping. U.S. stopped reporting the gold sales. You can see where that green arrow is pointing in the 1970s. And once they stopped reporting them, really we don't know. And that's, I believe, why Ron Paul did want to audit on the U.S. gold reserves. It never happened, never will. Is there any gold left? That's a good question. Really good question. You think about the gold eagles that they sail, the debts that have to be paid, the movements here and there. Now, the gold might be there. It might be in vaults. Here's one of the points I've made in the past is it could be in some of the vaults that they claim that it's in. The question is who owns it, because they could have transferred ownership. They could be holding it for somebody, a big entity, big rich banking families, anybody really. And they just transferred the ownership via on paper, whatever. And, legally, the government does not own the gold. It's just possessed, perhaps, in the vault. And we all know the Federal Reserve isn't government. It's not federal, and they have no reserves. The Fed is a cartel of private banking institutions and syndicates. So, again, that's not the government. When you talk about the Fed, if the Fed owns gold, or there's this much gold in the Fed building, or in New York Fed, no. Not government, has nothing to do with us. Virtually no central bank in the world publishes a full physical audit of their physical gold or any derivatives positions. The U.S. has not done this since the 1950s. Same in most other countries. Since gold is a major asset held by the state, there should obviously be a detailed independent audit. The only reason why no country undertakes or publishes an audit is clearly because they don't have the gold. A full audit of Western central bank gold would most probably reveal that the majority of the gold is gone. Some banks might have paper gold, but they will never get the physical back since that has gone to China and India. And that concludes today's reading, today's article. I was entertained by it. I hope you were, even though this is a boring channel, talking about boring things. When I saw this article and read it, I immediately thought, you know what, this is definitely something I want to read on the channel and share. So here we have it. And a little bit other news, and some personal news I just wanted to share with the channel, that there are some things taking place in Junius Maltby's personal life. I will maybe go into detail on it in the future, a little bit more extensively than now. But I won't be doing videos as often right now. I've got to sort some things out and just do some things. It's quite difficult. I have informed one of you, only one of you, that's a close friend of mine here on the channel. It's you try hard in life. You do what you can, do your best. That's all you can do. You can only do your best. And I have a dedicated dude, faithful man, good man, I believe anyway. We all make our mistakes, but I will be looking for a little house somewhere to move into on my own, and going through some very personal struggles right now with the relationship that I'm in, marriage. And so some news broke recently that I didn't really care to hear as far as that goes, and I'm going to be very helpful, and it's going to be very amicable, friendly, and no tension, no resentment, no hatred, no anger. That's my goal here. None of that. And I will most likely not have a single ounce of metal at the end of this, but that is okay, because life is not about possessions or physical wealth at all. Never has been, never will be. Wealth is leisure time. It helps you, I guess, have false security, because you shouldn't rely on your metal as your security. You should rely on a relationship with God, and your relationship, your faith, your strength, your inner stoic, all of those things. Power on, and just do right. Always do good, and be the best you can be. Treat others with respect and dignity, and do unto others as you'd have done unto yourself. Always, right? So, I'll still try to crank out these videos, but I won't be in the club. I'll still be interested, and hopefully there will come a day where I can begin to, again, hopefully accumulate some measure of metallic assets. But as of, soon, that won't be the case. I'll have zero holdings in precious metals, completely liquidated of the liquid asset. So there you go. Sorry to break that to you guys, but it's just the way it is. And, it'll help you guys understand a little bit more of why I won't be present as much. Wish you all well. Thanks for being here. And you got all my love. This is the Junius Maltby channel signing out.